I'd like you to imagine with me a fire that's been built, and then someone comes along and they pour on gasoline. What happens to that fire? It builds and builds and builds. Now, we're going to relate this to parenting. Without knowing it, sometimes we add that fuel to the fire, and we need to stop doing that. Instead of that, there's a better way that can strengthen relationships and get through that interaction in a more calm way so that we're not adding fuel to the fire. Here's how it happens. Maybe you start out with an explanation or a boundary, or your child asks for something and you show up responding in a calm way. You're committing to be a calm parent. So you show up being calm, but what we can't control is how they show up. And they may show up with a lot of behavior and complaining or sass. And how we respond to that is, are we pouring fuel onto the fire in how we respond to their negative behavior? Or are we putting that fire out? So I'm going to teach you how we can do both, and how to avoid one and how to engage better in the other. So the one we want to avoid is adding fuel to the fire. When you show up, and you've already stated, you already showed up, you explain something and you did it in a calm way. Let's say your child asked for more screen time. They already had screen time that day, but they're asking for more. And you set the limit or the boundary and you say, oh, that's not a choice. You've already had screen time today. Now, you showed up, you delivered it in a calm manner. And you would hope that they would respond to you in a calm manner. But sometimes they do not, and we cannot control that. So let's pretend that they show up with a lot of complaining or sass, and they say, it's not fair. Why don't I get more screen time? All my friends get more screen time. There's a lot of emotion around it. Okay, now we're at the stage where we can decide, are we going to pour fuel on that fire that's built, or are we going to put it out? We pour fuel on the fire when we choose to respond like this. I cannot believe you're talking to me like that. I already gave you a turn. Do you want a turn tomorrow? And we have a lot of emotion and we have a lot of our own behavior. And we didn't keep our calm. We let go of our calm. We showed up to their negative behavior and complaining and sass with our own negative behavior. When you show up to those interactions with your own negative behavior, you are adding fuel to the fire. And you may think, but I'm an adult. I don't have negative behavior. Sometimes we do, unfortunately, unless we train ourselves to respond differently. You are absolutely capable of responding differently, and it doesn't matter how you've responded in the past. We're talking about today and moving forward today and how we're going to respond when our child or our coworker or our spouse shows up with negative behavior. We can keep our calm no matter how they show up. Okay, so let's use the same scenario and go through it differently in showing up in a more calm manner. Okay, so the child had screen time already. They asked for more. You state the expectation or the limit one time and you say, oh, that's not a choice today. You've already had your turn. But it's not fair. I want more. All my friends get more. It's not fair. Why do you limit the screen time? On and on and on, whatever they may say. And they're complaining and they're unhappy, and that's normal when they don't get their way. So instead of us complaining about their complaining, we're going to show up in a different way. And we're going to use short, simple phrases. One that I like to use is, I understand. So when they say, it's not fair, I want more, please, please, please. Instead of giving that explanation one more time and saying, I already told you, you've already had a turn. Instead of doing that, we're going to say, I understand. 2 simple words. And they may not like that. They may say something like, you don't understand. They may even start throwing out things that you would not approve of hearing in your home. Things like, you're the worst, or I hate you. And when those behaviors, when it starts to build and they're trying to build that fire, remember, you are not going to add fuel to the fire by saying, that's it, you do not talk to me like that in this house. Okay? Again, whenever that fire, that negative behavior shows up, you have a choice.